Okay, good morning everyone, and Chazak. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning as we are wrapping up Parashat Shemini. And there's a beautiful idea that I'd like to share with you about yesterday's Parashat that we read, something that we didn't get to really talk about much last week, and that is the idea of kosher and not kosher. And we know that according to the Ramban, according to Nachmanides, according to Ramban, Rav Moshe ben Nachman, the not kosher animals all have a common denominator. Why can't I eat all of these animals? Why can't I eat all of these fish? Why can't I eat all of these birds? In one sentence, says the Ramban, because you are what you eat. And if the animal is itself cruel in nature, then you eat it. The same way, if you eat something that's unhealthy physically, it's going to hurt your physical health. So too says the Torah, according to the Ramban, if you eat something that's spiritually messed up, that's bad midot, if you eat it, you will become a person. It will also affect your character. You are what you eat physically. You are what you eat in spiritually, in character, in emotionally, everything, in every sense of the word. And therefore, says the Ramban, if you look and pay attention, you'll find that all of the kosher and not kosher animals follow this rule. So as an example, the not kosher animals, the ones that walk on the ground, that are not kosher, all are vicious. They're cruel. They're carnivores, right? Lion, tiger. The ones that are kosher, as a rule of thumb, are all tame. Sheep, cow. They're all herbivores. Even the signs, you ready? The signs, what are the two signs of a kosher animal? Anyone know? Split hooves and shuzitzkar. These are the kosher signs of an animal. Says I believe it's Rav Hirsch. He says if you take a look at the two signs, the signs themselves are indicating to you their tame, timid, calm, friendly nature. Because if an animal has split hooves, that means that it doesn't have claws. It means it's not going to attack. It's not going to kill. Split hooves is a sign of peace. Not because it's a piece, I don't know, maybe that's where it came from. Peace, maybe it comes from the split hooves, I don't know, okay? I just made that up, I don't know if it's true, okay? Maybe, who knows, okay? If it is, I'm the first to say it. Woo, okay, I invented something. Okay, fine. So then, that's the split hooves, right? It's not killing, it's not claws, it's not vicious. Then, the chewing its cud. Why does an animal regurgitate? Why does an animal chew its cud again and again and again? Why does it bring up the food? Because it didn't chew it well enough the first time. Because it doesn't have fangs. It doesn't have sharp teeth. You ever try to feed a llama? Right? Even though, right, a camel maybe is not kosher, right? But it has that chewing its cud aspect. Why? Because it has flat teeth. Right? Sheep, they bite you, that doesn't hurt. Because they're very soft, flat, right? So these are two signs that show you and tell you why it's kosher. Because they're very friendly, they're very peaceful. Beautiful idea. And the same thing with the fish, and the same thing with all of the birds. Says the Ramban, the birds that are not kosher. By the way, what are the signs of a bird? Anyone know? We just said for the animal, it has to have split hooves and chew its cud. For fish, what are the two signs? Quickly, what are the fish signs? If you go to a fish store, by the way, you're allowed to buy any fish you want as long as it has these two signs. It doesn't have to have an OU on the fish. You don't need anything, you're good. You're in the middle of a country and you're buying a fish from the farmer's market and you want to make it at home, no problem. Just make sure the fish has two things. What does it need? Fins and scales. Any fish that you find with fins and scales, you could buy it from the guy because fish don't need chasidah, right? Fish don't need to be slaughtered by the neck. So therefore, any fish that has fins and scales, you can buy it from anywhere, no problem. Fins and scales. Okay? Very good. So you buy that fish, you make sure it's kosher, and those are the two signs for the fish. What are the signs for a bird? Anyone know? Signs for a bird? There is no sign. Very good. Trick question. For the bird, it's a list. Okay? You have to follow a list. These animals are kosher, these animals are not kosher. And our parasha lists to us many animals that as well are kosher and not kosher. And again, according to the Ramban, common theme, they all have to do with their nature. The ones that are not kosher are cruel, and the ones that are kosher are very friendly. I want to read to you the list of not kosher animals. There's one animal that's listed here. Take a look, everybody. Okay, here we go. There's one animal, Pasuk Yutet 19. Ve'et hatin shemet, okay, the ka'at haraham. Okay, anyone heard of those birds? I'm not sure what they are, but either way. Pasuk 19. Eta chasidah, ha'anafa, haduchifat, and atalef. These are all animals that are not kosher. Let me read to you the list one more time. Chasidah, anafa, duchifat, and atalef. I think an atalef is a bat, if I'm not mistaken. Bats are not kosher. Okay, again, unless you live in Wuhan. Okay, they eat bats over there. But either way, you can't have bats. Chasidah, not kosher. What's a chasidah? Does that word ring a bell to anybody here? Chasidah? It should, right? What's a chasidah? Sound like? What word does it sound like? Chasidah? Sounds like the word chesed. What's chesed? Anyone know what's chesed? Chesed, we all know. Chesed is kindness. Rashi says, you know why she's called a chasidah? Rashi says, by the way, you know what's a chasidah in English? He says, I think it's a white stork. You ever saw a white stork? Okay? The white stork, beautiful animal. Says Rashi, Lama nikra shema hasidah, she'osa hasidut im havroteha bimzonot, because she does kindness with her friends with food. Wow, beautiful. So the chasidah over here, a very nice animal. And we ask the question, why then is it not kosher? If she does chesed, and the whole point of Ramban is that the animals that are not kosher is because they're cruel, so then this stork should be not kosher. This stork should be kosher. And I want to answer with a beautiful story that brings out this message. And it's a kid's story, so I beg your indulgence, but I think it's a beautiful story. Sometimes the children's stories really bring out, we hear so many stories as kids and we're like, wow, and we grow up and we forget that they're very powerful messages. The story is about a group of girls going on a trip in their class. They went to some type of nature walk. It was spring and they went on a walk and it was a beautiful trip. And all of a sudden, as they start the hike, they feel mosquitoes surrounding them, and then all the girls are getting bitten and they start slapping and itching. And one of the girls, the protagonist of the story, she brought with her a mosquito spray. So she quickly pulls it out of her bag and she sprays herself, and all is well. And her friend in her class asks her, do you mind if I borrow the spray? Could I have that spray? She says, sure. She passes it around and all the girls in her class, all her friends, start spraying themselves. And the whole class is now mosquito free, right? Repellent, all is good. All of a sudden, there was another class that was also on this hike. Same grade, different class, same school, different class. And they see that they have mosquito spray. So one of the girls comes over to her. She says, do you mind if I borrow some of your spray? Can I have some spray as well? We're also getting bitten by mosquitoes. And this girl, she looks at her and she quickly thinks in her head, I don't really know her. She's not in my class. She's not from my friend circle. I'm not going to ever, need her or whatever. So she apologizes and she says, I'm sorry, but I don't have a lot. I don't want to run out. Sorry. And she takes the spray, she puts it back in her bag. Okay. Anyways, they continue the walk, and this whole class is enjoying the trip because there's no mosquitoes touching them, and the whole other class is miserable as they're itching on this hike. And finally, as they get along this walk, they come across different birds, and they see this beautiful white stork that's feeding her children and giving them food. And the girls are looking and they say, wow, that's so beautiful. And the tour guide says, yes, that's actually the bird in the Chumash called the chasidah. And the girl says, wow, it's beautiful, chasidah. And then one of the girls says, yes, I know. I heard about the chasidah, but it's not kosher. And the tour guide says, very good, correct. It's not a kosher bird. And this girl, Sarah, she's thinking, wait, why? Why is it not kosher? If she's so kind, she's so friendly, she gives food, why is she not kosher? And the friend responds, because the stork only feeds her own kind. She only gives food to those that are like her. To only help people that are like you, people that are your friends. If the limit of your kindness goes only to your friend circle and no more, that's not a kosher bird. That's not true chesed. And all of a sudden it hit this girl. And she turns around and she sees this other class. And she says, holy cow, I'm like this chasidah. Holy bird, right? I'm like this chasidah. I'm literally being like this bird. I'm only helping my own classmates. And she turns around and she learns a lesson and she hands the bug spray to the other class. It's a beautiful story, very powerful story. And I think according to the Chidushei Harim, this really highlights and explains to us why the chasidah is not kosher. You know, a lot of times we're willing to help. We're willing to extend, we're willing to do, but for people that are like us, people that are like our own type, our own community, our own political views, people with our own hashkafa, and the Torah is teaching us that this partisan kindness, this kindness that we only extend to the people that are like us, that's not kosher. That's not true chesed. Chesed is not that we help someone that's similar to us. Chesed is not that we help people that think like us. True kindness is we do kindness for the sake of kindness. Because if I'm only willing to help people that are like me, that's actually selfish. Because I'm really doing it for myself. I'm doing it because I know you, one day I'm going to need you. A lot of times someone comes and they ask us for a favor. They say, hey, do you mind giving me a hand? Could you help me? Could I borrow this? And we quickly calculate, maybe one day I'm going to need this neighbor for something. So, okay, here you go. Or somebody in the synagogue asks us for something and we quickly calculate, okay, I'm going to need this person maybe, so I help them. Or it's an investment that's worth my time, my energy, because this is something that I'm going to benefit from at a later time. My daughter's in his daughter's class, and who knows, maybe they're going to need to be. So, okay, no problem. I'm friendly to you because it's something that I'm going to need one day back. And this is actually selfish chesed. This is really an investment. We're doing it for ourselves for one day down the line. We're planting seeds. You know, I love the stories of chesed is a boomerang. You know those stories? That the lady helped the guy, and then 15 years later, he was there to save her life. You know those stories? I love those stories. I'm the biggest. I love those. I say those stories. I have a whole page filled with stories just like that. I love those chesed boomerang stories, right? Throw your bread onto the water, and one day it's gonna come back. And the lady was there for him, and then he says, "You don't remember me?" And like I get chills from. I love those stories, right? Those are my favorite stories. But those stories, there's a flaw to those stories. If we're honest with ourselves, because chesed shouldn't be done because it's going to come back. That's not why we should do chesed. We shouldn't help because one day it's going to come back to help me. That's not why we should do. Really, we should do chesed, never anticipating. And our rabbis tell us, chesed shel emet. You know what's the highest, you know what's the truest chesed? A chesed of truth. Anyone know which specific mitzvah is chesed shel emet? The mitzvah of burial. To bury a dead body. Because that kindness, the guy's dead. What's he going to do? He can't pay you back. That's the highest level. And that should really be the chesed that we look for. Not that I like the person. Not that they think like me. Not that, if I'm quitting, then why should I help my coworker? I'm never going to need them again. Why should I help somebody in my office? Right? So that's the lesson from this chasidah. This bird reminds us that we must be willing to help, not because we're going to gain, purely for the sake of the other person. There's a beautiful story told about a big tzaddik. And one day there's a knock at the door. The tzaddik opens up and he sees a homeless man standing there asking for tzedakah. Can I please have a few dollars to buy some food? So the tzaddik does what any of us would do. The tzaddik runs, grabs his wallet, he rushes and he gives the beggar the money. He gives him $1 and he sends him on his way. The homeless man nearly gets to half the end of the block and he hears someone calling out his name. He turns around and he sees this tzaddik waving, wait, wait. He turns around and the tzaddik runs over and he hands him another few dollars. The guy thanks him and he goes on his way. The tzaddik gets back home and his wife's all confused. She says, I don't understand. You gave him already. Why'd you give him again? And listen to what the tzaddik responded. The tzaddik told his wife, I'll explain. When I first opened the door, I saw a smelly, raggedy, grimy man standing in front of me. I felt very uncomfortable. I ran, I gave him $1. But I gave it to him because I wanted to get rid of him, because he made me feel uncomfortable. I wanted him to go away because I couldn't live with myself knowing that there's this homeless guy. What kind of person am I if I don't give him? But after he left, I realized that I didn't give him $1 for him. I gave him $1 for me because I needed to know that I gave him. And therefore I went to give him a second $1, this time for him. That is powerful. That's tzedakah. That's chesed. You know, the Torah tells us that the Torah begins and ends with chesed. Yes? Are you familiar with this midrash? The midrash says that the Torah begins and ends with an episode of kindness. What's the beginning of kindness? Where's the first episode of kindness in the Torah? Anyone know? Where does the Torah begin with chesed? Our rabbis tell us, when Adam sinned and he realized he was unclothed, Hashem made for him clothing out of the fig leaf and he gave it to him and his wife. So we see the Torah right in the beginning, chesed. Beautiful. And where does the Torah end with chesed? Excellent. TEA. Burial of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was buried. Who buried him? Vayikvor oto. The pasuk says he buried him. Who's he? No one was there with him. No one knows where he's buried. No one was there. So who buried him? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So our rabbis tell us Hashem began burial and Hashem ended with burial. The Torah, the Torah begins with chesed, ends with chesed. He made clothing and then he buried him. I remember Rabbi Zweig has a beautiful idea on this. Rabbi Zweig asks, I don't understand. Why is this the first story of chesed you could think of, that Hashem gave him clothing? Is there not an earlier story, episode of chesed in the Torah? I can think of one. Can anyone here think of a story of chesed before making clothing? There's dozens. How about the fact that he even created man? That's chesed. How about the fact that he put him in paradise? That's chesed. How about the fact that he gave him a wife? Okay, I don't know if everyone would agree to that one. Okay, but either way, right? There's tons of chesed all over the Torah. Why are you telling me that he gave him clothing? That's the first chesed that you could think of? Says Rabbi Zweig, because, beautiful answer, you ready? Because to help someone that you love, to help your friend, to help someone who's like you, to help someone that you're tight with, that's not real chesed. When God created Adam, he loved him. To help Adam in the beginning, no big deal. The Torah is trying to find us a story, an example of real chesed. You know what's real chesed? Real chesed is when someone spits in your face, and someone hurts your feelings, and someone doesn't do what you want, and someone disobeys. Someone that's not like you, someone that you're not friends with anymore so much, and you still help them. That's chesed. It was only when Adam ate from the tree, the one commandment God gave him. Couldn't listen to one commandment, and God says, you know what? Even though you hurt me by eating from that tree, you spit in my face, but I'm still going to help you. I'm still going to give you clothing. That, says the Gemara, is chesed. Beautiful. Beautiful. So all the first episodes, that's not real chesed. Because you're friends, you're boys, you're tight. It's not real kindness. Real kindness is only when they hurt your feelings and you're still there for them. When does the Torah end with chesed? When he buries Moshe. After all, why was Moshe being buried to begin with? Why was Moshe being buried? Because he sinned, he couldn't go into Israel. Our rabbis are telling us, even though there's nothing that God's going to gain anymore. Moshe will never be there again for him. He'll never do another commandment. He's going to die. And Moshe, you sinned against me, and that's why I can't let you into Israel, and still I'm there for you. Torah begins with chesed, and the Torah ends with chesed. What a powerful lesson, to be able to think, who are the people in our lives that we help? And of course we know chesed begins at home, that's true. Chesed begins with family, but it cannot end at home. It cannot end with family. If there's somebody that needs a place to eat, and we don't really know them, of course we have to make sure they're not dangerous. But a lot of times, we just don't know them. They're not from my community. We all say, yeah, of course, I do achnasat orchim all the time. I have people for Shabbat all the time. Really? Who are the people that you have for Shabbat? Oh, I have my friends over. Yeah, that's right. That's your friends. That's not achnasat orchim. Your friend that has a house, he has his own food. You're inviting him to have a good time, to have some drinks, to have a l'chaim, to have a good night. That's not achnasat orchim. Achnasat orchim is, I tell you here, there's a guy in Shul, he doesn't have anywhere to eat. He's a visitor. He's a little bit, awkward maybe. Do you have room for him on your Shabbat table? Of course, Rabbi, we would be honored to have a person that we don't know, that will never be able to maybe reciprocate. That's chesed. That's kindness. A beautiful story is told of the two brothers, Rav Elimelech and Rav Zusha, that they once went to a town, and it was in the beginning of their careers as a rabbi, so they were still not well known. And when they get to the town, they were there, and they looked like regular rabbis that are collecting nothing impressive. And at the end of the prayers Friday night, they're waiting in the back of the synagogue, and everyone walks by one, and usually the custom is, back then in Europe, that if you want to host somebody for a meal, you walk over to them, and all the line of people standing in the back of the synagogue, and you would approach one of them and say, do you want to come over? We would be honored to have you for a meal. And this wealthy man has a big house, has a lot of food. He walks right by the rabbis. He doesn't extend them a hand. He doesn't offer them a place to eat. He just walks right by them. And the Gabbai, who is at the synagogue, is left with no choice but to invite the two rabbis. So the Gabbai says, please, rabbis, come with me, eat by me. And they did. They came, they ate by him. Fast forward a couple of years. By this time, the rabbis, Rav Noam Elimelech and Rav Zusha, are very big rabbis. This time, they already have their own, Gabbaim with them. They have their own Talmidim. They have their own carriages and wagons. They have an entourage. This time, they're coming with a very impressive crew of people. And you could tell that these are important rabbis. There's a lot of rabbis that come to synagogue, and these are big rabbis. The way they dress, and they have students with them, they have helpers with them. So this time, as they're waiting in the back of the synagogue on the regular night of the week, the rich man runs over and he says, rabbis, please come over me. In this town, I host all of the guests. It would be an honor if you stayed by me. They said, thank you so much. And they gave the chauffeur the address. They gave their driver, the wagon driver, the address. And the man ran ahead of them to get to his house to prepare the room for the rabbis. Anyways, a few minutes later, the wagon pulls up, and the rich man runs. He opens the doors of the wagon, and he sees the wagon is empty. There's no rabbis. He turns to the chauffeur, to the driver. He says, where's the rabbis? Where are they? He says, I don't know. They sent us here alone, but they went, I saw, to the Gabbai's house to eat. The rich man is furious. To the Gabbai, to the simple Gabbai, I'm the chashuv one. I should be hosting the important rabbis. He runs to the Gabbai's house. He storms into the door without even knocking. He says, rabbis, please come over to me for dinner. I invited you to my house. Why did you send me an empty carriage? Don't eat by this Gabbai. He's just a simple fellow. You should be eating by me. And the rabbis told him, it's very interesting, because just last year we were in this town and you didn't come over to us to invite us. You didn't tell us to come eat by you. And we started thinking, what's the difference this year and last year? We are, after all, the same rabbis. Nothing changed with who we are. Last year and this year, we're the same people. Why is it that you're only inviting us now, and you didn't extend to us an invitation last year to come eat by you? And then we realized, it struck us, that it must be the only difference between this year and last year is that last year we came alone. This year we came with our horse and wagon. It must be that what impressed you was the horses and the wagon and the chauffeur. It must be that what you're interested in are the horses and the wagon and the chauffeur. And so we send them to you because after all, that's all you really want. As far as us, you don't care for us. You didn't invite us last year. So we will eat by the gabai that had us over last year. What an amazing lesson. How sometimes we like doing chesed, but only when it's cool. We love cool chesed. We love chesed for important people, for an important rabbi, for an important organization, for something that everyone's going to give me acknowledgement. Our rabbis remind us, Heve magdim shalom lechol adam. Make sure that you give a hello to everybody. Don't only give a hello to the important people. Don't only say hello to the people that one day you're going to need to borrow money from or do business with. Give a hello to every single person. Do you do that? Do we do that? When you come into synagogue, do you say hi to everyone that you walk by? I'm going to give you all homework, okay? Let's just try, maybe for 2-3 days, okay? Homework. Everyone that you see for the next 3 days, just give a good morning. Give a good morning and a nice smile. Give them a hello. How are you? Your doorman. Not your doorman, a different doorman. You're walking by a different doorman. You're never going to need this doorman. You're never going to ever have him bring a package up to your house. You're never going to need this garbage man. He's doing garbage on the street. Give him a hello. You see somebody in the synagogue. He's rich. He's poor. He's in between. He's in your career. He's not in your career. You're never going to need him. It doesn't matter. Give him a hello. Tell him hello. How are you? How's it going? Can I get you a sidur? You're never going to need this guy. Beautiful. That's a great place to start. Chesed begins with everybody. Of course, for the people that we know and we hold near and dear. But for everyone. Chesed has to be extended to everybody. The chasidah does chesed im chavroteha, with her friends. If you only do kindness with your friends, that's not good. Yes, she does kindness, but only to the people that she knows. Only to the people that are like her kind. That's not real chesed. Chesed is we help everybody. Baruch Hashem, there are so many people on this chat, so many people in the synagogue, people that I know. When I call them up and I say, listen, this person needs a hand, they're happy to help. They're happy to give. They don't ask, are they like our type of Jews? Are they, tell me, what's their level? What are they doing? What's their hashkafa? What's their denomination? No such questions. We give unadulterated. We give and we give because we're happy to give, because that's what Hashem does. Hashem gives. He doesn't pick, are we religious? Are we not religious? Imagine Hashem only gave to those that were observing. Hashem helped Adam even though he sinned. Hashem helped Moshe even though he sinned. We have to be able to help everybody that needs that help. Chesed for the other person, not for us. That is true chesed. Okay, everybody, we'll stop over here. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. God willing, we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.